is by using the Dollar Tree fancy heat cans. First I started using this right here. It's a pop can heater that I made. I think I made this in 2007. I like it, but my main problem is when I'm camping that let's give you an example, if I'm trying to boil spaghetti noodles, it's going to take at least 7 minutes of a continuous boil to cook the noodles. Well, the pop can will last about 6 minutes on a fueling, and then it goes out and I have to reprime it. And of course, priming is my big concern, is my big problem with this right here. So it's not really working that well for me out in the field. Now, of course, I also built a Super Cat, which will bring water to a boil in 6 minutes. And but then the fire dies out. I have to restart and relight it again. So I lost all that heat to it. Plus, what happens is, if you ever notice inside the Super Cats, all that residue inside stays in the can. And of course, if I put this back in my gear, it gets in my other stuff. And I'm using methanol fuel injector cleaner. If you look at the ingredients, it contains methanol. Now, however, methanol, which is wood alcohol, is toxic internally if ingested in its liquid form. And I really don't want that in my stuff, because personal hygiene and washing is really not practical out in the woods. And so therefore, that idea is not really good working for me also. So what I've been playing with is these fancy cans. These catering heaters are not designed to bring food to a boil or bring water to a boil. They're designed for people in catering to keep food warm. And I need to bring to a boil, so what I've done is I've modified it a little bit. If you see the little ports there that I've drilled in around the inside perimeter of the inner cap, if you can see them in the light real good, and this is a single wick system. Now, I also built a dual wick system here using 2 wicks, 1 wick that I scavenged from another one that was a failed prototype. But what will happen is this self-primes. As I light the wick, it will heat the can, and of course the can then expands the methanol inside, causing them to come out outside the ports, which will create an entire blue flame shooting up, oh hell, we're talking about maybe 5 inches. However, the dual wick will go up a whole lot higher and a whole lot brighter, but it also consumes a little bit more. But they are pretty efficient. And I think this is going to work for me because it's all self-contained, and all I have to do is pop the cap back on it, make sure there's no residue up in the cap. Of course, you see that little rubber seal that's already made into the cap, and seal it up real tight. Make sure it's on there good, and it's not leaking out. So I think this will serve my purposes. Now, to fuel it, what I've been doing is I've been using a small flathead small screwdriver. In this case, I'm using an ice pick, and there's a little bitty hole there on the side that you pop this thing up with. Well, what I've been noticing is that this is a very soft metal, and it dents real easily. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here on the dual field. If you see the lip over here where I've been trying to pry it up so many times, it bends that and it will not get a proper seal when I put the cap back on. So that's not an option there. I can't be delicate enough with it to pop that cap out, because sometimes when you fire these things, that metal swells and it's in there snug, so it's in there pretty tight. So what I've decided to do is it's just filling it up old school way, is be sure you put the can on an incline, and I'm using, this is my little alcohol container here. It's got a turret lid on it, and you simply open up the turret lid on it and see if it's going to focus in on it. And I'm pouring down on one edge, and I'm just allowing the alcohol to go in through the portholes, while the other holes are acting as a ballast for the air pressure as the liquid goes in. And it takes a little while, but you can fill it up. This is a 4-ounce container, so I can pretty much put 3 ounces at the level it's at right now. So that's about, what, 3 ounces in there. I can fill this complete thing up with 3 ounces, and it's a little bit over halfway filled. And it just takes a little while to do it, and at least you can control the flow of the methanol going into it, and it works pretty well. Like I said, I'm going to show you my test results on it, the single wick versus the dual wick, and you can see the difference in the flames if you want to build one. It's really straightforward. The drill bit I'm using to make the porch with is the smallest one I could find laying around here. It's about the size of a sewing needle, and you just want to drill your porch around the perimeter of the inner cap. And but like I said, it is all self-contained, and I've been using it with a 3-tiered wire cage, which works really well as long as there's no wind blowing. And if there's wind blowing, I made this out of a piece of roof flashing that I obtained. Here we go. I obtained it over at Lowe's. I believe it was 35 cents. No, 32 cents, I'm sorry. And it is 1.5 inches in width by about 7 inches in length. And of course it's a very thin aluminum, and I'm simply using a hole puncher to punch the holes in it. And it acts really well as a wind block. So I'm pretty impressed with it, and I just had a 1-quart cup on top of it cooking spaghetti. No problems. It held the weight really well, just as long as you're on a flat surface. And the good thing is that it goes around the edge here, and all you need is a rubber band on it, and it slaps it to it. Put my cap on, if I can with one hand. There we go. Be sure you put a good twist on it, but not so snug you can't get it back off. And you can hear the liquid in there, and it's not leaking. So I hope this is going to work for my needs, and I just want to share that with you. Anybody could build this. It's not really hard, and hope it does it. Here are my test results. Okay, here's the test of the single wick with the porch drilled around the perimeter. There's the burn. There's the new pot stand I made from a piece of aluminum flashing with the holes punched into it. Maybe you can see the steam coming out. It's coming, barely. 2319. Get my glove on. It's not the fastest boiling system I've ever seen, but it is pretty efficient. Alright. See, the water's a raging boil.